Hey, this is JC and welcome to Small Brick City, where we want to help you build a Lego city regardless of the space you have. In this video, I'm going to discuss how you can modify, reconfigure, and reMOC this set so that you can make it a complete building or make it more suited for your custom Lego city. Of course, you can use it exactly as how you see it, although this is an open back build. But if your Lego city has a whole collection or cluster of these type of buildings, you can just set it in freely and put them against each other. However, if you're like me and you prefer to have a modular style building, that is a building that is closed off and you can lift off the different sections of the building, then this particular video might be useful for you. I'll be discussing different ways you can do the modifications and also show you what I have in plan. Subsequently, I'll be doing a series of videos where I'll be reMOCing this set to fit my Lego city, and that will be a long form video where I'll be reMOCing the build from start to finish. So let's first start off with what you get. This is basically the largest build in the 3-in-1 set because you get 3 different builds, but I'll be mainly focusing on this large build because it uses all the parts. You also get this pretty cool hot dog stand, but I'm going to take this as a standalone piece and I'm not going to use it in the discussion for reMOCing this particular set. Although of course you can take this apart, use this as a 3D sign and put it onto, for example, over here. If you do not want a coffee cup sign, you can use a hot dog sign and you can put the hot dog grill inside the restaurant. But I guess we can talk about that later because that's really superficial and some interior details. What I like to talk about is how you can physically use this set and rebuild it or reMOC it. Now let's go with the simplest process. Now if you keep it as it is, because these sections are really held together by Technic pins, which I'll show you in just a bit. But if you want a complete building, then the most obvious thing you need to do is to build up this area. So you'd need base plates such as this, something like that, to cover it up, and then you'd obviously build up. So let's, for example, I'll just use these panel parts just as an example. You'd build these up, build up the walls so that everything is completely covered, and you generally want to follow this particular color scheme so there's uniformity, so it doesn't look like an odd building. I guess you could also do something completely different because this part isn't really seen. If you consider a modular building and you placed it against other buildings, maybe you could get away with it. But of course, if you do want it to have a bit more consistency, you should use the same colored bricks. The thing you have to think about is access to the above floors. Do you want to have a stairs? Do you want to have a ladder? Or do you just want to use your imagination? Personally, for me, I do like the detail of having access and stairs. And I guess the way I would do it, if I were to reMOC this set, I would just have one set of stairs that is common for these two businesses. Now, these are two distinct businesses. This is a cafe and this is a pet shop. So maybe you can combine the two together to make it a pet cafe. You know, there are doggy cafes, cat cafes, and owl cafes. So you could combine the two where there's one section which is the pet shop, and here you might have a section which is the cafe, but there are some pets running around. And then you have a shared set of stairs that goes up to the second floor. So you'd need additional plates, but a bit different this time because you have to create a stairwell. And you can check out the link in the description for how to figure out how to place the stairs and the stairwell, as I've done a video on that previously as well. So you'd have to figure out a landing for people to come up here. And then you have to decide what you want this to be. Honestly, for practicality, I might not have this as 2 buildings. I might have this as the same apartment but 2 rooms. So I could wall this area up. So let's use this as an example again. You could put bricks or panels, you could wall this up, put a door here, and this could be one small room, or this could be the kitchen. You might not even need a door if you consider this as one apartment. And then this can be the dining room and the living room. So that actually works as one unit. And then I'll probably do, just to make things easier, I would have a staircase, not a staircase, but a ladder that comes up to this floor. Again, maybe this will be built out so that it is slightly bigger and more practical. and you'd have the ladder coming up through a hole to get to the bedroom, and I would probably build a toilet as well. But that's how I would approach building this particular reMOC if you are to expand on it. In this case, you're not really touching the original build, you're really keeping the essence of the build. You might need to switch some bricks around just to connect the plates together. For example, this is a 1x1 small brick over here, so you would change this maybe to a long brick to hold all the base plates together, and then you'd need to do some work to also make everything modular. Now this is already modular, as you can see. Oh, there's a Technic pin here, so but basically this is modular, so you can pop them off just like that. That's the Technic pin I was talking about. They used a pipe to connect it together, but basically you could pop this off and you would then connect your different levels together. So it is a bit of work, but this is quite a straightforward approach to reMOCing this. You will need more bricks in the same color preferably, and it is, I won't call this an easy job, because sometimes when you do not change anything, you just want to do an add-on, it can be quite challenging. But that is one approach. Now let me show you a second approach, and this is what I'm likely going to do. The second approach also involves creating this to become a bigger build, because that's the whole point of this video, how to make this more of a full building. Let's talk about, let's say you want a half modular building. This is pretty simple. I covered it briefly in my previous video as well, but let me just break this apart so that we can see the different sections. So this pops off like that, and this part also comes off like that, because everything is held together by Technic pins. Now we're just going to set this aside for now. As you can see, these two can actually come together just like that, and you have almost a corner building. If you want to make this an inset building, you'd have to take out all these signs and the pipes and this as well, so that you can place it between buildings. So that's a possibility, or you can take this as a corner lot in the following way. Now take note, what we have here is 12 studs across, which is neither here nor there, because if you think about a standard modular building, it's 32 by 32 studs. If you go for a half modular building, it's 16 by 32. So we can take advantage of that. Once again, not doing anything. If we look at this plate over here, this is like a little, I guess you call it a park, although there's no grass, but it's really made of two plates, and it's these two plates here. So these are 6 by 12 plates. So assume you dismantle this and you'd get that. You can then put these here, and using the same Technic pins, you'd build it up this way. And just imagine you take all the different elements and you replace them here. So now you have what I would consider a truly modular corner. So this would be a half modular building, or at least in terms of the footprint, it would be 16, not 32. You would actually have to add to it. This is not 32, this is actually 24. So you still need 8 studs. So for example, you would add to it like that here, and you add to it like that. So now I have a true 16 by 32 stud base plate. Of course, you can make it completely easier and just take a regular base board of 16 by 32 studs. You can either buy that separately, or you can take a 32 by 32 stud base plate and cut it in half. And the way to cut it in half, it's pretty easy for these type of standard base plates. You can take a bunch of 2 by something bricks and just lay them across, press them down on the studs like a ruler, put it on a cutting surface, take a sharp arts and craft knife, industrial strength preferably, and then you just score it and cut it through, and you can easily break it apart. And then take fine grade sandpaper and sand down the edges so that it's smooth. So you can get a half base plate, put it down just like that, and now you have a footprint of a half modular building with a building without even changing stuff. Now let's not talk about the inside first, let's talk about the outside. You would take these elements over here, you would break them apart and redistribute them over here. These will come forward. You might need a bit more tiles just to cover the surface to create a sidewalk. And you see this traffic light, it makes no more sense here, but this is what you could do. You can take this lamp post part, and let's say we put it somewhere here. You pop this off, and now you can put this over here. And now you can see what we have. We have a standing street light. Did I say lamppost? Well, this is a street light obviously, but this is a lamppost base. But now you have a traffic light here, and that will make sense. So just imagine this is all tiled up. This is kind of a pavement, and over here you can imagine this is road. And to fill up the space, you can even take the hot dog stand, put it here, or put it here along the pavement. And voila, you now have a modular style building on a half modular base plate. Now, let's talk about the inside. Obviously, the same thing applies. Are you going to build stairs, or are you going to put a ladder? How are you going to connect these levels together? You can either put a ladder, you can put a stairs, or you can forget about it completely. Now, if you want an idea of how you can fit stairs or ladder into such a small space, do check out my builds for the tiny modular buildings, and those are really tiny, 8 studs wide by 32 studs deep, but the interior is really small, but I still managed to put in stairs and ladders for access. So check out the link in the description, and if you watch those videos, it might give you an idea of how you can manage the space, because I know some people might be looking at this and think it's impossible. There's no space to put in any kind of access, but it is possible. There is a bit of work to do, but if you do not want to mess around with that, change up the base plates, because it will be a bit of work. Then I suggest just closing this up, putting it on a base plate, and creating that half modular footprint sort of building and adding that directly to your Lego city. Here's another option that I will be executing. You will need to spend a bit of money, but you already need money for bricks if you want to expand and close this up. And the option is basically to buy 2 sets. And I've got the second build over here. But what has been done differently is that this has been built as a mirror build. So it's not an exact replica of it, it's a mirror build. So just imagine if you had a mirror in front of it, this is the reflection. This allows for many possibilities, and let me just show you, just putting this together, you can get a good idea of what I'm talking about. This in itself looks like a pretty impressive build. And by the way, if you want to see the speed build of the 2 sets being built at exactly the same time, one in each hand, do check out Annie's channel, as she did an amazing job with it in my opinion. Just follow the link in the card above or the description below. But with the mirror build, you can see there's so much symmetry that goes on. This now looks almost like a apartment block or even a penthouse. And this would be an end block. So if you think of modular buildings, you would kind of put this at the end. But take note, this size is a bit odd. So maybe this might be better as a standalone if you use it exactly in this way. This actually is 1.5 base plates. So it's a bit odd, but basically the same width as assembly square. But it's not a modular building in the sense that you can't put it between blocks. But I guess what you could do, if you really wanted to put it between blocks, you could. You just need to put an additional, I would say 8. So you need 8 studs here. So just imagine an 8 stud base plate there, an 8 stud base plate there. And now you have the size of 2 modular buildings. So you still could put modular buildings here, but now there are little alleyways or pathways between the buildings before we get to this block, which makes sense as well, because there are buildings where you have little pathways between other buildings so that you can access the side of a building. So this could be a standalone modular style building that takes up 2 base plates. And of course you have 2 hot dog stands, and Annie built them mirror build as well. And you could put them here, well, not to block the access too much, but you basically get the idea. You won't have 2 hot dog stands, I think, but you know what I'm talking about. That just gives you a basic idea. Of course, with this approach, you can imagine what the back might look like, because remember, it is completely open. So let's turn this around and we'll have a look at the back. So here we have the back of the build. In fact, this looks like almost a little courtyard. Sometimes you do see apartment blocks like that, right? Where there's an open courtyard. So there are a few things you could do. Of course, you could just build this all up and then you get a huge interior that you have to rework. Lots of work to do, but that's one option. Or you could build this up smaller and have this as an open courtyard. You can have barbecue pits. You could even have a pool, I guess. You could even do it half, so you could build this one over here, for example, and you could have another one which is built this way. So all this is closed up, and you have a little courtyard over here, or little garden or backyard over here. But again, you would have to figure out how you want to design the inside. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but at least this gives you an idea of an option. You could also, of course, put it this way. I think it doesn't look as nice as the other way, but again, that's an option. Okay, this is just if you're to use the pieces without breaking them up much. But what I'm going to do now is to separate all the different builds together from the Technic pins, and we'll see what sort of configuration we can come up with. Here we have all the modules separated, so I've taken out all the Technic pins as well, just to make it easier to butt the different builds together. And let me just put these park plates aside just for now, and we'll just focus on the builds itself. And immediately you can see how they probably can come together. Let me just do a couple of configurations. I guess we can do this, and you would do that back to back. And that's one possible configuration. If you want to have them as modular buildings to be inset between two builds, you would need to remove all these signs. Of course, this could be a corner sign, so if you add plates over here to create a 32 stud base plate, you could still put the park area, so this could be a corner. You might not exactly have duplicates over here. You could have the air conditioners. Well, I guess you could. It's a double coffee sign. I guess you could. It's up to you, really. So that's one option. Basically, what I would do is I would actually get a 32 by 32 stud base plate like this, and I would place the builds on. This will help me define the area better and just keep everything together. So I would actually remove the bottom base plates. That means you also get a lot of extra parts because you free up these gray base plates, which would be good to create different levels if you need to, or to change around the levels if you're going to put stairs. So let's say if I do something like that, okay, but you want, so if you follow a regular standard modular building, it's generally about 6 studs. So let's say this is the front over here. So it is a corner build in this respect. You could of course add all these elements into this area over here. I won't do that. And of course you can take that traffic light and put it here as well. And this looks like a pretty decent size modular building. Let's change things up once again. If you do not want to do it this way, you could put this side like that as well. And let's go with this being the front, and this would go behind. That looks pretty cool as well, actually, if you think about it. In fact, you won't even need so much space in front. I would move this so that it's more or less equal, and it looks almost like linked houses or terrace houses, depending what it's called in your part of the world. So move this all the way, just assume it comes all the way here, but that's the basic idea. I really like this flow personally. I think this is really pretty, and when these come together like that, that looks like 2 different apartments as well, so that works. If you do want to put it against another building, once again, remove all these elements. See, this is just held together by these Technic pins, so that's easy enough. So I'm inclined to do something like that, I think. Of course, the inside has to be figured out. Let's see if there are any other options that we can work with. Here's another possibility. It's not a modular style building, but it's a standalone city block. So it looks really busy, made up of different businesses, apartments, and you have lots of space on each corner to put in small builds like letter boxes, electrical junction boxes, traffic lights, benches, trees. So this in itself, while not modular, really works well as a standalone block. And if you have space in your city and you just want to create some visual texture and variety, I think this works pretty well. Here's one final idea that I think combines all the previous ideas together to create a very interesting corner modular building. What I did was to rearrange the building so they weren't symmetrical, so we get a bit of height and a bit of disparity between different buildings, making it visually more interesting. It is modular in nature in the sense that you can butt this against another expert modular building and it would fit pretty well as a corner build. Lots of space around the corner for the sidewalk, and as you can see, as I've just done here, kind of placed all these small builds, rearranged the cafe and put the trees here. Of course, in the actual reMOC, I'll be thinking much more in how I can incorporate the different small builds in. We can't have two ATM machines, for example, so there will be some things to change about. But this is to just give you an idea of the potential, I think, of putting the two mirror builds together to create something really interesting. I hope you enjoyed these ideas on how you could potentially reMOC, modify, and incorporate the Townhouse and Pet Shop into your custom Lego city. Shortly, I'll be releasing a series of videos where I will tackle this reMOC from start to finish, and you'll see the entire process of me coming up with the final build, including doing the detailing for the inside. Which is your favorite layout or modification that you saw in this video? Let me know in the comments below. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you haven't, please subscribe to the channel and turn on that notification bell. Thanks for watching. Check out these two videos before you go.